This video is brought to you by Iona, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Iona is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave.
Hello, welcome back to another Out of Spec video. My name's Max. If you don't remember me, I used to be a full-time contributor on the channel. I'm a grad student now. I don't work for Out of Spec anymore, but I'm making this as a quick video because I have a personal update for you. You may find of interest if you're looking at Polestar 3s or you care about the Polestar brand. You might remember that I drove a Polestar 2 for quite a while. I bought it used. I loved it. I had it for the past few years. Well, I've just traded in for a Polestar 3 that I leased, and I scored, I think, a pretty sweet deal on it. Now, this car, if you've been following the stories, has not been without its problems, and I'm well aware of that. I walked into this eyes open. So let me get inside, away from this wind here in Colorado, tell you all about the car, its status, and why I decided to go for it. All right, let's step into the Polestar 3, but before we do, I want to give a quick tour of the outside and explain what exactly is going on with this car. So this is a dual motor Polestar 3 with the Pilot Pack. All of the US models have the Pilot Pack, I think for model year 2025, and it also has the Plus Pack with that lovely Bowers Wilkins sound system. It also has the 21-inch standard wheels, none of the fancy performance, 22-inch wheels, and so no performance pack on this one. However, it does ride super nicely. It is the Magnesium color, which I like. It's a bit of a kind of a slate gray, pretty neutral color. Maybe not super exciting, but I think pretty inoffensive. And why did I get this one? Well, I scored an amazing deal because this is not a new Polestar 3. It was advertised on the website as one. I looked more into it. Turns out this was the dealer's demonstration model. It had 5,500 miles on the odometer. Because of that, and because of several other reasons I'll get into inside the car, I was able to lease this for an incredibly low price. And the buyout is not outrageous, though these depreciate so quickly, as do many EVs, that I'm not sure I'll take up that road. I'll tell you about the lease details inside, but first, let me just show you some of the outside details. So this specific car does actually have a little bit of damage. It's a demo model. I believe someone who was driving it curbed it, so you can see there is some wheel rash. I think one of the plastic bumpers on the underside has some scratches. The dealer has given me an IOU. I think they're going to take care of that and fix it. So I signed that before I took delivery. But other than that, the car is generally the condition you would expect for 5,000 miles. As I get inside, I'll make note. This does have the Apple Car Key functionality with ultra wideband and NFC. So as I get close to it, doors do the proximity presenting of the handles, just as they would with the key fob. Let me open it and get away from this awful wind and enjoy the soft closed door and environment overall of the Polestar 3. Joining me in the serene and right now very sunny interior of the Polestar 3, you'll notice that I have it blacked out. I got the charcoal wool option, and when I say I got that, I should specify that that's what the demo came with. That's not to say I don't like it. I specifically did actually want wool. The other options, I think, is a Microtech as the base material, and they have what's called a Weave Tech, which is also synthetic fiber. This is wool. It's an animal product, just like the Napa leather, but not quite as fancy. I think it's like a $1,200 upgrade to MSRP, whereas the Napa leather is somewhere in the $4,000 to $5,000 zone. However, I do like these seats a lot. They're extremely breathable. They're not actively ventilated. I think I may miss from my Polestar 2 the Napa leather seats that had ventilation. However, I've heard great things about wool and its breathability, so I have high hopes in that regard. In terms of the interior space overall, it's very well packaged. It's much more spacious feeling than I remember my Polestar 3 being. You have this kind of cargo cubby under here where you can see I've already placed a few things. I don't keep the neatest cars, maybe not the messiest, but I definitely use the storage space. And then there's this nice kind of fold out port, 2 USB-C ports. Unfortunately, no power delivery for my tech nerds out there. These are stuck at 18 watts. Perfectly fine for fast charging a phone, and maybe an iPad, but not quite enough for a laptop. This is a charger, wireless charger for the phone. I think it's ventilated, which is actually quite nice, but it's not magnetic or anything. Your phone will slide around. It's also theoretically where you're supposed to place the key fob. However, as you can see, It doesn't have very deep indents. The key's going to go sliding around, particularly if you were to get a performance spec and slide this car around, as I'm sure many people will be doing. Maybe not me because of my lease. So let's tell you, before I get into more in depth about the car and my thoughts on it, about my situation with it in that lease. So what are we doing here in terms of finances? Why did I get this? I'm a grad student. So the Polestar 2 that I had was a certified pre-owned model. I got it for what I thought was a great price in 2023, but EVs did what they do and have depreciated, and my Polestar 2 did a lot. It wasn't the end of the world. I've enjoyed driving it. I think I put around 60,000 miles on it in my 3 years of ownership. However, a deal came along for this, and I was starting to get a little bit sick of the Polestar 2. As much as I did like the car, it had a 78 kilowatt hour battery new. It's experienced some degradation, and at this point, especially in winter, on the highway speeds, I'm lucky to get like 180 miles of range. Here in the Polestar 3, if you watch Kyle's videos on it or you know our coverage, you get a big boy 112 kilowatt hour pack. At least you do in the launch edition model year and the 2025 one, which I have here, where you're getting these great deals. There is an upcoming 2026 model year car. I believe Kyle and the gang have made a video on how to spec bits about whether you should, get a deal on one now or whether you should get a 2026 model year Polestar 3. The headline change is just some architectural things under the hood, under the floor, I should say. It's a skateboard platform. They basically upgraded the SPA 2 architecture the car sits on. So what happens now is the car has 800 volt architecture for model year 2026 in some European countries. I think in the US, we may just go straight to model year 2027. So it's coming later this year. You might ask, why didn't I wait for that? Again, it's the deal here. I promise I'll get to numbers in a little bit, but some more framing first. This is still a big boy car. The new one has actually a slightly smaller battery. It'll have a 106 kilowatt hour battery for the dual motor all-wheel drive versions like this spec. So 6 kilowatt hours smaller. However, I think the range will actually be slightly higher because it's got a more efficient motor setup. It's also rear wheel drive primary. This car says it sends most of its power to the rear. However, if you put it in range mode, it disconnects the rear axle and it simply uses the front motors. Anyhow, I did promise I would get into lease numbers. So before I get into more mechanical geekery and nerdery and comparing of the models, let's talk about my story and the numbers here. So yeah, Polestar 2, I was in a situation with deep depreciation. I had some negative equity still in the car, but it paid off enough of it to start thinking about getting into something else. Specifically, I had roughly $5 to $7 grand of negative equity, assuming I did a trade-in. I may be doing a private party sale of that car. If you're interested, hit me up, and that might reduce my equity, but $5,000 to $7,000 to make up. Not exactly a great position. However, the car's used price to me was 46 grand, so it paid off a lot of it. But they just depreciated so fast, as I imagine Polestar 3s will as well. If you want an amazing car in a few years, I bet these will be under 30 grand pretty soon. However, I was looking at this because Polestar has nationally discounted Polestar 3s by $20,000 if you are getting a new one, either buying, finance, or lease. They're also offering at Polestar Denver, which is their kind of like dealer affiliated space in the Colorado area, an additional $4,000 incentive. So, doing some math here, that's $24,000 so far, right? Nothing new if you've seen Kyle's video on Polestar 3. I know when he picked up the Polestar 4, he mentioned that to you. Well, here's where this gets spicy. They also had a Polestar loyalty bonus, which started out at $1,000. Okay, big deal. So now we're at a total of $25,000 in discounts from an MSRP of, by the way this car spec'd around $82,000, $83,000. Okay, so it's nicely discounted. That's $25,000. This month, they bumped it up for Polestar owners of that loyalty bonus to $3,000. I believe if you're Conquest, if you're coming from another brand like Tesla, it's also still $1,000. But because I had a Polestar 2 and because they're doing this loyalty incentive, I had $3,000. That's at this point, $7,000 in incentives. Okay, big whoop. Costco, you may know, has an auto program with some promos from time to time. I'm an executive member. It's one of the ways I do save money on food. Love Costco and that $1.50 hot dog. Well, they offered $1,250 off Polestar 3s. So now at that point, what are we at? $2,850, right? In total incentives. Okay, now we're starting to talk, but it gets better. So I could see at the dealer, like on the Polestar website, I was starting to look at them. They're heavily incentivized. So I talked to Colby from Polestar Denver, who's their sales guy. He's great, by the way. And I said, hey, I see you have a Magnesium spec. It has the wool interior, so it's not Napa, no performance pack. I don't need that. Modest mid-spec, but it does have the plus pack with the Bowers and Wilkins sound system, with the heated windshield nozzles. Lots of nice upgrades. The wool interior, but a solid mid-spec model. I asked about it, and then Colby told me this isn't a new car. This was actually the Polestar Space's demo vehicle, so it already had 5,500 miles on the hood. But because it was a demo and because I wasn't leasing a new vehicle, he said they could lease it to me and they get creative. They would just basically, to factor in the depreciation, capitalize or compensate me at $1 a mile. So with 5,600-ish miles to start, I get an additional $5,600 discount. So doing all the math, it worked out to almost $34,000 in incentives applied to the lease as a capitalized cost reduction. So off an $83,000 MSRP, I had $33,800 discounted. With tax, that meant the purchase price of this car at that point would be 53 grand, but or somewhere around there, 53, 54 grand with taxes, right, and fee registration. Well, I'm also leasing it. So I'm able to lease a demo. They worked it out for me. They're 27-month terms right now in the US, if you're looking, or the best terms. So I did that. However, I do drive a bit. I put 20,000 miles a year in my Polestar 2. I may go over on this too. I may try to drive a little less, but I decided let's at least go for 12,000 miles a year. And what am I paying? The big drum roll question. Well, for all of that, this Plus car, and nothing down, because I don't believe you should put much money down on leases. What's the point otherwise, right? I mean, if you want to put money down, finance the car or buy it, but the point of leasing is to have to put less capital down. So I put nothing down, paying with taxes and fees included and the registration and taxes amortized. I'll stop beating around the bush. $572 a month. Again, that's my local taxes included. That's everything. That is not a bad price. And it could be even cheaper if you were willing to do, of course, the 7,500 mile lease, or you were willing to, to adjust the lease otherwise, maybe put some money down. But again, no money down. I believe in that honest pricing. $570 a month. That is not bad. Doing some other math in Denver area around here, I mean, there's some Kia EV6s and new Hyundai Ioniqs. I mean, the nice trims, but that's what you would lease those for. And the Polestar 3 is so much more car than those. So I figured at that point, I can't go wrong. I was financing my Polestar 2 in full transparency at, I think, 6.49% APR from when I got it in 2023. So I was making monthly payments that were about $850 a month. So I did the math, and my Polestar 2 at that point, even though I hadn't entirely paid it off, the residual value was so low, and I'm sure it will depreciate even more, that the math of paying for 25 more months of that at a surplus of $270 over this car, it was $7 grand. I know, lots of math here, but at that point I figured, what, I'll save the $7 grand over these next couple of years. I will actually put cash to make myself whole in the Polestar 2 situation. I don't want to be paying interest on that loan, or maybe I'll sell a private party. Again, hit me up if you're interested. But ignoring that situation, I'm in this car now, and it's way cheaper. So financially, was it the smartest move? Maybe not. However, if you were coming into this completely clean slate without a negative equity to worry about on another EV, it'd be an incredible deal. And I still think it's a good deal considering my situation. So yeah, that is the rough story of the lease of this car. Let's get more into the bit of the mechanical nerdery. And let me also talk about some of the comparisons to the 2026 model year, why I decided to strike now and not wait even longer, and also some of my thoughts on the issues of this car. I know if you're an owner of it or if you've been paying attention to the forums, this car hasn't been without its issues. That's part of the reason you can imagine they're so heavily discounted. So I'll get in the back seat just for some variety and tell you about all that. Sitting in the wonderful back seat of the Polestar 3, let me tell you a little bit more about how I think this compares in the market, the known flaws with it, all of those details. So let's just first talk about the 2026 elephant in the room. Again, if you've seen Kyle's video, you may know a bit about this. As I explained earlier in the video, that car is an 800 volt battery architecture. That means it's going to charge quicker. Specifically, Polestar has said it's about 10 minutes quicker, 10 to 80%. Not insane, but still a pretty substantial year-over-year difference to make. I mean, that is not a trivial change to make to a car to change the high voltage electrical system completely. It's a new battery, a little bit smaller, but it's more efficient, rear-wheel drive based, 800 volt. They also upgraded the chip. However, good news on that, and Polestar 3 owners will know this, Polestar decided as an act of goodwill to upgrade all of the existing Polestar 3s to the new chip. So they have this new Nvidia Orin chip. I believe before they had what was called Xavier generation. Nvidia loves to name all their chips after scientists. That's basically the centralized compute chip that runs lots of systems in the car. There's also a Snapdragon CPU that specifically runs the infotainment. That was never that much of an issue. The Snapdragon chipset, that's got 5G, it has all the modern features, but the Nvidia system was a little bit overstressed with a car this large with this many features. They weren't able pretty quickly, Polestar realized, to actually do all the software they wanted on this car. So they are giving owners a free upgrade. And the great news on this being a demo model is that service has already been performed. That started in earnest, I think, in late January in the US. And many Polestar 3 owners are still waiting on service appointments to get those done. Because I got this demo model and because they happen to already do it on it, I have that Orin chip. So I've got access to all the new software of the car and how it's been refined. But to get back on track, right, 2026 has that Orin stock, so it's got that new chip, right? All the Polestar 3s at this point have a new chip, which I think is actually a great place to be. Shared software platform at this point, you're not really getting a benefit from the new model year of that, aside from it just happening to come with the car, not needing to schedule a service upgrade. But the mechanics of it are better, no doubt. And if you do care about the performance credentials, or particularly if you're getting the rear wheel drive single motor spec, it's going to be a lot juicier. It's like we're talking, I think, a 50 to 150 horsepower boost, depending on the trim level you're looking at. So, not insubstantial. I think it moves from like 519 horsepower peak in the dual motor performance in this model year towards 2027 model year being 670, right? That's a pretty serious boost. And I think it's like a 4.2 seconds 0 to 60 versus 4.5. This one I'm in right now, because it's not the performance, is 4.8. Honestly, they're all pretty similar, especially here in this 2025 model year. So not to beat around the bush again, sorry to keep going on all these tangents. I've learned a bit from Kyle. I got this because I didn't care about the performance. I didn't want to spend too much money. And also, I think the 2025, they probably will continue to get really cheap, but they're running out of them, right? Polestar is not making any more of them. They're not importing. They're not, they make these in the US, in South Carolina. I think they've probably stopped production at this point, I imagine. I don't know that for a fact, but given how slow they have been to sell these and the anticipation of the coming model year, I'm guessing they're just waiting to sell through inventory. So I knew it wouldn't last forever. It's probably going to go on throughout this summer. If you're interested in a Polestar 3, then I would say, if you find a deal like I did on in 2025, go for it. Not every space is going to be offering that additional like $4,000 discount. But if you're a Costco member, if you've got Polestar loyalty, like if you already have a 2 or a Polestar 4 in your family, the 3 I think is it's such a special place to be. I should have said this earlier. It is the Volvo EX90, but it's Polestar spin on it. So instead of being a 3-row, it's just actually a really comfy 2-row, more of a performance focus. Even the dual motor cars without the performance pack still get a Borg & Warner torque vectoring rear axle. If that's Greek to you, well, why are you watching on Spec Reviews? But I apologize. That torque vectoring rear axle it's crazy, right? Like no other EV, to my knowledge, has this on the market. So it can kind of, in some ways, function like a tri-motor car. Not entirely, but if you don't know what that is, basically it is a clutch pack that connects each half shaft in the car so that both the left rear and the right rear wheel can be independently somewhat controlled, or they can kind of basically boost just one wheel to help the car turn in on the rear using that clutch pack instead of having to have two motors. It's a really cool mechanical solution. I'm sure it's not cheap, and it's yet another example of these cars just having so much darn feature content for the money, particularly with what they're going for with incentives. I know for a fact these will depreciate. I'm not going to pretend that they won't, but I mean, at the end of the day, you are objectively getting so much car, and none of that changes for 2026. In fact, it all gets even better. So I think you can't go wrong if you have the budget to buy a new one, to wait for 2026. Because my guess is, given the EV environment in the US and how tepid it's been, I think they're also going to have to incentivize them. Maybe not as heavily as they have this one. And, you know, with everything that's going on in the world right now, rising gas prices, it's possible that the EV market will actually start to get hotter again. But I still think, you know, I think they'll discount it, just not as much as the 2025. And I think the 2025 is a great deal. I selfishly just wanted to get into one now. Will this be the lowest price they ever are? No, but it's one of the best deals we've seen to date. I think it's even better than when the federal tax credit existed last year, especially in my situation where I stacked so many of those incentives. And so I think, you know, I really honestly think I got a good deal right now. Maybe we'll have an update video in a few months. I'll tell you how I feel about it. Because we do have to talk about some of the gremlins of this car, and another reason besides the tepid market why they have incentivized it so much. I already mentioned to you the story of the Orin chip upgrade, how the car came with too slow of an Nvidia chip in the first place. That's been resolved, but what hasn't is a few other quality control things with the car. So in general, people have complained about many software bugs. While the chip and the new software have resolved a lot of that, I've looked in the forums, I've looked on Reddit, people are still having some issues. Not so many catastrophic ones anymore, unless you count level 2 charging. So the AC charging system in this car, an electric car, when it's not DC charging, when it's charging at a wall outlet or a dryer outlet or a hardwired home charger with alternating current, you need an onboard charger to convert that alternating current into DC. That they do important work. We don't think about them in most cars, unless maybe you have an EGMP car with an ICCU that failed. Well, the Polestar 3, I think their acronym for it is GHCA. I forget exactly what it stands for, but basically that's the general inverter system to onboard charge if you're plugging in at home or going to like a public charge point. They fail in this car like crazy. Owners have specifically reported, I think, some people having like 3 or 4 units that they've gone through. And of course, you know, all of these cars are new. They're in warranty still, so the dealers are replacing them. But that's rough, especially if you're one of those people who only got an EV because of home charging. And let's be honest, that's one of the best reasons to get an EV. I'm a grad student living in a condo right now. Whole situation with home charging. I have level 2 charging near me, but I don't have home charging right now. So that's actually not the end of the world. I don't exclusively DC fast charge, but if you're one of those people who, you know, has an EV and who almost never DC fast charges, who almost never goes on road trips, that's critical. Because at that point, you're going to have to go into, you know, your crappy Walmart or a public fast charger. You can charge this on superchargers now, but you're going to have to take it to a charger, the fast charger, and pay way more for electricity. So obviously, it's a critical system fault. They keep breaking. Not every car, you know, many cars, they've been fine. I have heard many owners who have been happy, but it's enough that, you know, there's enough smoke there that clearly there's a design flaw. At this point, I think Polestar has switched the manufacturers of it, but I'm still seeing reports online, even with the new chip and the new software and like a very recently replaced onboard charger, they're still failing in these cars. And I think that's very concerning. So like, Polestar obviously has a huge financial warranty incentive towards figuring this out. They don't want to keep customers unhappy, having to go to the dealer and paying expensive, no doubt, you know, supply and labor costs to keep getting these replaced. I'm sure they're on it, but the fact they haven't figured it out yet in like a year and a half of this car being in the market in the US in particular, it's concerning. I hope I get lucky. That's one of the reasons I also got this more depreciated demo car, because even though, you know, it's not in perfect condition, it's not brand new, I figure if it's had 5,000 miles on it and most of those miles have been charged at the Polestar space on their local, you know, their private charge point, seems like the onboard charger is working fine so far. It's not to say it can't fail later, and I'll make an out of spec shorts video or something if it does, but the fact that it's worked so far in this car tells me maybe this is one of the good ones. I don't know. So just in full candor, it is one of those luck of the draw things you'll have to consider with the car. I know, yeah. Who wants to watch a man rant for 20 minutes about onboard chargers? People who watch out of spec reviews. I love you guys. What else with this car? The Bowers and Wilkins sound system, as I'm sure you've heard Kyle say if you've watched his videos on this and the EX90, it really is incredible. They actually, in the last few months, have done even more work to add an Abbey Road Studios mode, in partnership, of course, with, you know, the Beatles recording company. So, like, you know, they have all this kind of spatial audio processing. It was the first car in the market to have Dolby Atmos. Though, if you are an infotainment nerd, I do have to say, this car has wireless CarPlay. CarPlay should theoretically support lossless wireless audio and do Dolby Atmos. It doesn't in the Polestar 3. I don't think it does in any car I'm aware of through CarPlay. The only way right now to get Atmos, as in like the Dolby Spatial, right, standard for music that's surround, is to do so through, I believe, Tidal, the native Tidal Android app on this car, because this car runs the Android automotive operating system. I have it installed because I'm breaking it in. Sounds great, but I know many people don't like Tidal. Many people are Spotify or YouTube Music or Apple Music subscribers. Apple Music theoretically has Dolby Atmos, but it just doesn't work in this car right now. There is not a native Apple Music app for Polestar, strangely enough, even though I think General Motors vehicles have it and they also have an Android system. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. I hope they get that sorted soon. But regardless, even if you're listening to stereo music, if it's a high enough bitrate file, most streaming music services, it's still going to sound incredible. This 25 speaker, 1600 watt system is just the bee's knees. Like, you don't need to hear it from me. You can watch plenty of audiophile reviews online. It's one of the many reasons, though, I've found this such a serene space to be. It also comes with active noise canceling. And by the way, bonus point if you get the Napa leather upgrade, like I don't have in this car. In addition to getting these headrest speakers, I believe the rear, two of the rear seats, with the exception of the middle bench seat, get speakers too. So just one more reason that you may want to consider going Napa, although that is a $5,000 upgrade over MSRP. So for $1,000 or $1,200, whatever it is, I do think the wool is a nice middle ground. I don't mind that it's not ventilated. It seems like quite a durable, nice material. My only kind of selfish wish is that made this, made a light option. I know Volvo has had like a lighter gray wool on their XC60 and stuff. They should do it in this. Anyhow, Polestar 3 is lots of car. By the way, great cargo area. I'll get outside actually and show you the trunk, just in case you haven't seen it. Soft closed doors on this Polestar 3, very luxurious. But yeah, it has the kick sensor just like my Polestar 2 had, and it works about as well, which is to say 60% of the time. But you have a cool cargo shelf, way more premium than the Polestar 2 in my opinion, and I had the Polestar 2 for a while. I loved it, but little details like that, like in that it was a flimsy plastic thing. Here it is a more substantial piece of kit with a retracting shade. Really nice. You get this grocery bag system here where you can kind of basically fold this back, and then you have actually surprisingly really deep space. For a rear motor car, I'm impressed. Then again, I'm coming from the Polestar 2, which was built on CMA, an adapted non-EV only platform. This is built on SPA 2, which was always meant to be for EVs. So even though it's not the best packaged EV in the industry, it is no lucid gravity, you still get I would say, a pretty deep, nice cargo well. I've got a Fantech, I think they're a former sponsor at the spec, Fantech battery powered pump here, and some accessories for my bike rack that I might put on if I put roof bars in the car. But yeah, you can put plenty of things in here, and then you have those thoughtful Volvo details, like of course like the way these turn into hooks when you flip it up, the cargo anchors, you have the strap here, you can put some wine bottles in there that way, this nice netting. It's all honestly pretty nice. Oh, and by the way, you can raise and lower the air suspension. One big miss I'll say is this 12 volt. I mean, I'm not mad that there is a 12 volt, but if you know anything, oh gosh, it's getting windy. Let me get back inside before I finish this out and finish my thought. If you know anything about the Hyundai eGMP cars, and also, of course, the outdoorsy vehicles like the Rivians, what else at this point? eGMP, Rivian, the Ford Lightning, those cars famously have really beefy onboard inverters, crucially giving you a 110 volt outlet, in some cases even a 240 volt outlet, like on the Lightning and the Cybertruck. But that's such a nice feature to have, not just in a truck, in an SUV. You can buy an Ioniq 5 from Hyundai, a Kia EV6 or EV9. And if you get the higher trim specs of those cars, they come with a full, three-prong wall outlet in the US that we know and love, 120 volts. Or for you Europeans, whatever your 240 volt connector of choice is, depending on your country. I don't understand why we can't get that in this car, given all the other feature content it has. I guess it just wasn't a priority for Volvo and Polestar. I don't think the EX90 has it either. And it's a bit weird too, given that these vehicles actually do have built-in native functionality to get bi-directional charging support for vehicle to home and vehicle to grid. I think they turned that on in the US in the last few months. I don't have a home with a battery backup system or a bi-directional charger to make use of it, but if you do, leave a comment below. It's theoretically enabled in these cars, so you can do the DC bi-directional, but they can't use the onboard inverter, which I guess keeps failing. But if it did work, you can't use it to get a native 110 outlet. So you have to use, a 12 volt accessory or rely on the non-power delivery USB-C ports, which are perfectly fine for charging your phone or a tablet, but just, won't fast charge your laptop. And given this is such a nice space to be, I could imagine going on a trip, taking my MacBook with me, wanting to edit videos or, write law school papers and wanting to have that, wanting to be able to charge it. And I can't natively in this car unless I get maybe a 12 volt adapter for the trunk, which is not a great, I don't know. I just think that's a little bit of a miss. Though you can see, man, premium car. They've got the rear AC vents here, the screen here with heated seat controls if you get the Plus pack for the rear passengers as well. Anyhow, that's a lot of detail of me sitting in a dark car in the Polestar 3. There may be more videos to come. I think there'll be some testing videos I will do for Kyle. So we'll test this car on the Mercedes Alpatronic chargers and see how it does. 0 to 100% on a full charge, and we'll also do the good old what is it called? The 10% challenge. We will do that to kind of basically road trip test this. That's where you can imagine the 2027 model year car that Kyle will, I think, be testing in a few months' time. We'll probably do a bit better because it'll be slightly more efficient and it will charge 25 to 30-ish% faster. Which I don't think is the end of the world. Again, I'm on a lease. I don't think I'm gonna be doing too many crazy road trips. I was fine with my Polestar 2's 10 to 80 in 34 minutes. I mean, I could have used faster, but this is a bigger battery and it does 10 to 80 in 30 on the 400 volt platform. So for me right now, that's fine. That's not to say I wouldn't prefer greater. And if you have more means, more capital, and you're in the market and you can wait, I would wait for that 800 volt one. But I'm super happy given my situation, the deal I got on this. I can't wait to drive it more. And maybe share some more details with you guys. Follow me on Twitter if you want the full story on my EV lifestyle and the Polestar 3. I'm sure I'll do at least one road trip this year in it. And again, I do have the Tesla CCS to NACS adapter still, so I can charge it at superchargers. That's one thing, by the way, I should mention before I close out. The car does not have NACS. This is 2025 model year, still CCS, and I'm not quite sure if the 2026 in the US will have an ACS. We don't know yet. I keep saying 2026 or 2027. Right now, just treat them like the same thing. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the model year because the 2026 is late at this point. So some people are saying they'll skip and go straight to 2027. Anyhow, it finally stopped being windy outside right as I'm about to stop filming the video. I know that's a lot of information I gave you guys. Hopefully that's of help. The financials, the numbers, the soft closing doors, all the specs of these cars. I love Polestar as a brand. I know they've had their issues. I know if you don't live near a service center, they can be inconvenient. And I know that not only do EVs depreciate a lot, Polestars depreciate so much because parts for them are hard to get. And there's not that many of them on the road. But that's a feature, not a bug for me. I love how cool these things look. I love how special they are. I love their interior design choices, the taste behind them. And the Polestar 3 is no exception. In fact, I think it's the crown jewel of the lineup. It's by far, I think, the most premium Polestar they've made. It has that Volvo Swedish DNA. It's not a Chinese car. Nothing against Chinese cars. They're great technology, but it's just got that I don't know, that Volvo Swedish identity. It really, you can feel it in this car with so many of the design considerations they made, good and bad. As Kyle has said, there is no dog mode on this. The Polestar 4, which is a cheaper car, has dog mode. I don't know what they're doing there. It's getting windy again, so I will close out the video as I get in, just for variety's sake, the passenger seat of the Polestar 3. And I will say, bid you goodbye. Thank you so much if you watched it through the end. I did make an effort to put chapters in this video, so hopefully that was helpful if you have limited time. Leave a comment if you have questions on my ownership experience. I'll update you. Really love the car so far. I just got it today though. So plenty of time for issues to develop, or hey, maybe more love to blossom. Maybe I'll buy it out. It's $39,000 to buy out the lease at the end of 27 months. I have a feeling these will be even cheaper on the used market by then. So good things to come to those who wait with appreciation. In the meantime, I love my Polestar 3. Thanks so much for watching this out of spec video, and I'm sure Kyle or someone else will see you in the next one.